Hello, Professor Theriault. Hello, Colby. This presentation will be on the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act by Jacob, Gersand, and Henri.
But first, some historical context. In 1974, President Nixon resigns after the infamous Watergate scandal. The American people are disillusioned by the government. Approval and trust ratings plummet. Following the scandal, Congress establishes the Independent Federal Election Commission, whose role is to oversee federal elections and create a specific framework regarding public financing. Several years later, in another effort to tackle the issue of campaign financing, Senators McCain and Feingold call for additional reform and start working on a bill that will be introduced in the 105th Congress. So, what was in the Campaign Finance Reform Bill?
It had three main provisions. The first and main goal of the bill was to ban national, state, and local parties from using soft money. Soft money is defined as unregulated campaign contributions to political parties that are not intended to promote any specific candidate. The second increased the limits on hard money spending, which is the amount of regulated individual contributions made to a political campaign. The third addressed the matter of issue advocacy by expanding regulations to candidate advertising and paid broadcasts that cite a candidate within 60 days of an election.
So, how did this bill become a law?
The bill was first introduced by Senators McCain and Feingold during the 105th Congress. However, the Republican leadership was hostile to the idea of such reform, seeing it as a violation of the First Amendment's protection on political speech. Trent Lott, the Senate Majority Leader, used his right of first recognition to propose an amendment focusing on compulsory labor union dues that he knew the Democrats would oppose, and then filled the amendment tree, removing the possibility to amend the bill any further. Ultimately, a Republican-led filibuster blocked the vote on the bill, and supporters failed to invoke cloture, effectively killing it in the Senate.
Meanwhile, a companion bill was introduced by Representatives Shays and Meehan in the House. The House leadership relented to an open debate, but made the bill open to dozens of amendments following a Queen of the Hill rule, meaning that whichever proposal gathered the most votes and at least a majority would prevail. The bill's main competitor was the so-called freshman proposal, which existed due to the controversy surrounding the complete ban of soft money. This measure did not ban parties from using soft money in federal elections. Some Republican leaders toyed with the idea of embracing the freshman proposal, but that measure failed 147 to 222, leading to the ultimate victory of the Shays-Meehan bill with a vote of 237 to 186. After its passage in the House, supporters of campaign finance reform tried to make an appeal to the Senate.
However, some senators still vehemently opposed the bill, and a motion to invoke cloture failed 52 to 48, and the bill was effectively dead. In 2000, Senator McCain ran for the presidency and suffered a defeat in the primaries. However, not all was lost as he put his presidential race momentum to good use once back in the Senate. In 2001, he and Senator Feingold reintroduced the idea of campaign finance reform, and the Senate successfully passed Bill S-27.
In the House, the Shays-Meehan bill was also reintroduced. Shays and Meehan wanted to ensure that their bill was substantially similar to the Senate's version to avoid going to conference committee. However, the Republican-controlled Rules Committee decided to put each change to a separate floor vote. Efforts to compromise stalled, and the rule failed when it came to a vote. Speaker Hastert declared that the bill would not be brought back to the floor. In response, the bill supporters began to gather signatures to file a discharge petition. By early September 2001, they had gathered 209 signatures, but were forced to put the petition on hold due to the events of 9/11. By January 2002, however, Shays and Meehan finally gathered the remaining signatures needed, making it the first successful use of a discharge petition since the 1980s. Republican leaders were prepared to add a series of amendments to thwart the bill, but the large coalition in the House rejected them all, ensuring that the bill would not be brought to conference committee. The House passed the bill and was thus sent to the Senate.
In a further effort to thwart the bill, Mitch McConnell managed to delay the vote for more than a month by threatening to filibuster until proponents of the bill finally proved that they had the 60 necessary votes to invoke cloture. On March 20th, 1 in 5 Republicans had joined the coalition, providing the necessary votes to adopt the House bill. Finally, on March 27th, President Bush signed the bill into law.
So, why did the bill ultimately succeed, given its failure in the 105th Congress?
First, John McCain, one of the original co-sponsors, campaigned heavily on campaign finance reform during his presidential run of 2000. Although he lost, he brought the issue to the forefront of the American political discourse. Also, following the exposure of Enron Corporation's shady business practices, the public became increasingly skeptical about the role of money in politics. Furthermore, The day of the debate, the White House spokesperson announced that the president would sign any bill that would improve the state of campaign finance, emboldening bill supporters to get it done.
Finally, and perhaps most importantly, there were major changes in pivotal politics which resulted in an increased number of Republican supporters. In the 107th Congress, newly elected Republican Senator Fitzgerald gave the bill his support. Furthermore, Republican Senators Cochran, Lugar, Warner, and Dominici, who opposed the bill during the 105th Congress, ended up switching their votes in favor of the bill's passage. It's important that Senator Dominici was on board, as he was the filibuster pivot. This means that his vote was necessary to stop the bill's passage from being blocked by a filibuster. While there were a few changes among Democrats, the issue had always been about garnering enough Republican support. When Republicans came around, it was only a matter of time before Congress took legislative action towards dealing with campaign finance reform.